Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Pesachim Ayin Tes. We are 8 lines from the top of the Amud, B'Mikdash and Einakein. The Gemara is going back to the Mishnah, which told us that in contrast with the Korban Pesach, where Basar is a requirement, because the intended purpose of the Korban Pesach is La'achila. When it comes to other Korbanos, it's different. As long as there's even Chaylev around, that enables the Zrikas Hadam. Says the Gemara, Masnisin Mani Rabbi Yehuda. Apparently our Mishnah insists on having some Chaylev present in order to enable Zrikas Hadam, is following Shitas Rabbi Yehuda, who says that in order to have Zrika, you need to have at least some Chaylev around, or some Basar, a Kazayis of one or the other. The Sandi Rabbi Yehuda Kol Hazvachim Shabbatorah, regarding all Karbanos other than the Korban Pesach, Shenishtair Mehen Kazayis Basar Oi Kazayis Chaylev, that there is some either a Kazayis of just Chaylev or a Kazayis of Basar left over. Everything else was Tamei, everything else has disappeared, but there's something left over, either Kazayis, which is a Shir Chashav, a Shir Achila, of either Basar, which would be suitable for Achila of the Adam, or Kazayis Chaylev, suitable for Achilas Mizbeach, Zurek Sadam, that enables him to do Zrika. But if it's only Kachatzi Zayis Basar, the Kachatzi Zayis Chaylev, a half a Zayis of Basar and Chaylev, you don't combine the two. They're not Mitzaref. Ein Zurek Sadam, you cannot do Zrika because you don't have a significant Shi'ur for either Achila of the Mizbeach, it's only half a Kazayis of Chaylev, or for the personal Achila, the Basar. Half of each doesn't combine. U'ba'oila, that's an exception. When it comes to Korban Oila, afilu kachatzi zayis Basar v'kachatzi zayis Chaylev, Zurek Sadam. By Oila, since the entire thing goes onto the Mizbeach, then you can combine, you can mix and match. Even a half a Kazayis of Basar and half of Chaylev, that allows Zrika Mipnei Shekula Kol, because the entire Korban, the Chaylev with the Basar, goes on the Mizbeach, so you have a Shir Achilas Mizbeach in total. Continues the Brayse. Uve Mincha, Afa Pisha Kula Kayemas LaYizrik. When it comes to Mincha, even if the entire Mincha is around, that doesn't allow Zrika. Says the Gemara, Mincha Mayavidata. When do you have Zrika by a Mincha? How does that come in? Omer Papa Minchas Nesach. We're speaking about the Mincha that comes with the Korban. And the point of the Brayse is, don't think the Mincha is an integral part of the Korban. And if there's nothing left except for the Mincha, you can do Zrika. Perhaps I would contemplate, Kiven the Ka'asya Mikoyach Zevach, since the Minchas Nesachim is coming on account of the Korban, Ki Gufei de Zevach Dami, it should be regarded like part and parcel of the Korban itself. And even if that's the only thing left from that Korban, you can do Zrika Kamash Malon. The Brayse informs us it is not so, because at the end of the day, Mincha is not the Korban. You need to have a Kazayis of the Basar HaKorban, Kazayis of the Chaylev, but the Mincha doesn't really play a role here. So that's the Brayse. And again, Mishnah, which insists on having something left over, either a Kazayis of the Basar or Kazayis of a Chaylev, is in line with Rabbi Yehuda Shita. Says the Gemara, Chaylev Minolan. How would we know that even a Kazayis of Chaylev is sufficient to allow us to do Zrikas Hadam? Because Rabbi Yehuda learns from the pasuk of V'asisa Oilisecha HaBasar Adam, as we learned earlier. Basar and Dam need to be here. How do you know that Chaylev accounts for something and allows for the Zrika? Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. Umotuba, some say it was Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Mishum Rabbi Shmuel ben Chananya. We have another pasuk, Damakra. The pasuk says, V'zorek HaKoines Adam, and then continues, V'hikter HaChaylev l'reich nechoyach l'Hashem. This comes to inform us that even Chaylev allows Zrika Chaylev, Aval Bisha in Basar. So Kazayis of Chaylev is sufficient. Ashkechon Chaylev. So now we learned that Chaylev works. Yiseres HaKavod, Ushtei HaKloyis, Minolan. How do we know that the portion of the liver, or the Shtei Kloyis, the two kidneys, which also are put on the Mizbeach, they're not Chaylev, but they're considered Emurim, which go on the Mizbeach. How do we know that they also can account for a shear in the Korban to allow Zrika? So that's the question. The Gemara stops for a second. Why are you even asking? Hey chamrinan zarkinan. How would you know to even ask such a question? Why do you think that the Yiseres Hakaved and Shnei HaKlayis do allow Zrika? The answer is because the Bryce that we just mentioned indicates as such. Midiktani, since the Bryce had said, Ube mincha afa shekula kayamas la'izrik. When the only thing left is the mincha, that doesn't allow Zrika. What does that indicate? Mincha hu deloi. The mincha, which is a separate entity from the actual body of the korban, that doesn't allow Zrika. But it sounds like anything that is part of the animal would allow. Avol Yiseres HaKaved u shtei haklayis shapri dami. But if you have just those remaining, it sounds like it is sufficient to allow Zrika. Manola, that takes us back to the question, how do we know? Answers the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda was the one who quoted Rabbi Shmuel regarding the Chalev. Now Rabbi Yehuda Didei Amar, he himself said his own, presented his own drasha, Amakra l'reich nechayach, because that very pasuk finishes with the words l'reich nechayach l'Hashem, v'ikter hakoyin l'reich nechayach l'Hashem, which indicates kol shata mala l'reich nechayach, anything which you put on the mizbeach to create that pleasant aroma, even the Yiseres HaKaved and the Shtei HaKlayis are included in this halacha, and as long as you have something like that remaining, this Zrika can be done. Continues the Gemara. Ve'itzrich lemichtav chelev, ve'itzrich lemichtav reich nechayach. We have the pasuk speaking about chelev, and then the pasuk has reich nechayach to indicate that even the kaved and the Yiseres HaKaved will allow Zrika. Why do we need a pasuk for both? Says the Gemara, "V'itzrich lemichtav chelev." The Torah does have to speak about chelev. V'itzrich lemichtav reich nechayach, and likewise reich nechayach to include the other items. Because rachmana chelev, because had the Torah only spoken about chelev, havamina, perhaps I would say, chelev in. The chelev does account for a shiur in the korban which allows Zrika. Yiseres HaKaved, ushtei haklayis loy, but not the other things. That's why the Torah has to add l'reich nechayach to include these items as well. Because Rachmana l'reich nechayach, had the Torah only said that, havamina, kol ha'oilen l'reich nechayach. I would say anything that goes on the mizbech, afilu mincha, even the minchas nesachim, is something which would allow Zrika. Kasav Rachmana chelev. That's why the Torah has to say chelev to teach us no. It needs to be something which is part of the guf of the animal, as opposed to the mincha, which is an external element. Although it comes on account of the korban, it is still not considered part and parcel of the actual guf ha-korban. Therefore, having that left over, that's not enough to allow Zrika. So in conclusion, we learned that according to Rabbi Yehuda, as long as we have a kazayas of basar or kazayas of chelev, that is sufficient to allow Zrika. You need to have a kazayas. A half of this and half of that is not combined, except by Oila when both are going to be on the mizbeach, and therefore they both can join together and create a shiur for a shiur in the korban. And we learn from a pasuk that not only the basar but the chelev as well, not only the chelev, even the Yiseres HaKaved and the Shtei HaKlayis, but not the mincha which is outside of the actual korban. Continues the Mishnah, we learned earlier that a korban Pesach can be brought even on Shabbos and even Betuma if necessary. Nitma kohol ayrubai. If the community became tamei, or most of it, we're speaking about the people that are going to join in the hakrava of the korban Pesach, they're either all tamei or mostly. Oy shahayu kahakayanim tmeim v'akol toirim. Or the kayanim were actually tamei, but not the community. Yasu betuma. In either one of these cases, they will bring the korban Pesach betuma, and Rashi points out that everybody will bring a betuma. There's no need for the tahirim to keep themselves separate. In fact, Rashi later, it sounds like they're not supposed to keep themselves separate. You're supposed to do one collective akrova, and if it's betuma, so be it. However, nitma miut hakol, suppose only a miut, a minority of the Yisrael were tameim. In that case, that doesn't justify bringing the Pesach betuma. Rather, hatahirin oisen esarishin, the ones that remain tar, they bring the Pesach Rishon on the 14th of Nisan, Vatamei and Oisen Hasheni, and the ones that are Tamei, the Miut, will be pushed off to Pesach Sheni. They'll bring it the next month. Tana Rabbanon, we have another example of Tumah. Says the Brisa, Yisrael Tmein v'Kahanim u'Klei Shoris Tahirim. Suppose the Yisrael were tummy, but the Kahanim and the Klei Shoris in the Beis Hamikdash remain tar, or Shahay Yisrael Tahirim. Yisrael were Tahirim, but u'Kahanim u'Klei Shoris Tmein. Both the Kahanim and the Klei Shoris were tummy. V'afilu Yisrael v'Kahanim Tahirim. Even, let's say, Yisrael and the Kahanim were both tar. U'Klei Shoris Tmein. It's only the Klei Shoris that were tummy. In all these cases, Yasu B'Tumah. They all proceed and bring the Korban Pesach B'Tumah. And the Chiddush again is that even the Yachid, who is tar perhaps, will join in their Pesach B'Tumah. Why? She'ein Korban Tzibur Chalak. Because a public, collective carbon is not meant to be separated into parts. It's meant to be one collective process of Akrava. If it's B'Tumah, all come along. Omar Rav Chizda. This halacha that we just learned, that even if the Kli Shoris is Tameh, that justifies bringing the Pesach B'Tumah. Laishonot, that was only said, Ela Shenitma Hasaken B'Tmemes. It depends what type of Tumah we're speaking. It only applies when the Saken, used for Shchita, became Tameh through touching a Tmemes. Tmemes is the source Tumah, Avi Avois HaTumah. One who comes into contact with the mace is called a Tmemes, he's an Avatuma. Now the Saken, which is a piece of metal, which comes into contact with an Avatuma, that Saken as well will attain the Darga, the Madregas Hatuma of Avatuma, unlike an ordinary item where there's a downgrade. If it's just a Kli 8, which touched an Avatuma, that Kli now becomes a Rishon. It gets downgraded. But by metal, it acquires the same Tuma as its source. So if the Saken touched a Tmei Mace, the knife itself will become a Tmei Mace. How do we know this? The Rachmana Amar, the pasuk says, if one touches a mace, b'chalal cherev, one who was killed through a cherev. Why do you need to describe the cherev? The pasuk here is teaching us that a cherev, which is a metal item, cherev harehu cholal, it acquires the same tumah as the chol, as the mace. So anything within the context of tumas mace has this halacha. The metal receives the same tumah as its source. So now we have a saken, which is a avatuma, v'kometame legavra. When the kohen handles this saken, he also will become tameh. The saken is an av, will be tameh the kohen, make him a rishon. The mikara kimis avid, betumas aguf. The kar is kamis avid. In which case, when he approaches the carbon, the mikara initially kimis avid. When this carbon is going to be processed, the shechit is going to be done. How? In what state? Betumas aguf the karis kamis avid. It's going to be done when the kohen or the Yisrael being shechet is tamei tumas haguf. He himself, the person, is tamei, which is a tumah that entails karas. Generally, a person is not allowed to be in the azara when he is tamei. In this case, where there's no way out, it's unavoidable. Inevitably, this Korban Pesach is going to be shechted with people who are going to be tamei. Tamei, a very severe tumah which involves karas. If so, this Pesach is going to be brought b'tumah, and this is what the Torah allows. You can bring a Pesach b'tumah. Aval, says Rav Chizda, but nitma saken b'tumah sheretz. Suppose this saken did not get the more severe form of tumah. Rather, he touched a sheretz. A sheretz is an av, making the saken a rishon. Because this concept of equalizing the metal with the source only applies to tumas mace. Here it's a tumas sheretz, in which case the saken is only a rishon. A rishon will not be matami a person. So even the kohen who's handling the saken will remain tar. What will become tummy? Only the basar. The basar who the matamulate. The saken is matami the basar. The gavrle matamulate, but it's not matami the person. In that case, says Rav Chizda, there's no justification, there's no allowance for the Pesach to be brought b'tumah when the people are tummy. In that case, Tahirin of it. Only the people who are Tar should do their carbon. Tmein of it, but not the Tmein. Why? Because although this Basar is Tameh, that's a lighter form of Tumah. That's not such a serious form of Tumah. And that doesn't provide this broad allowance. Well, if the Basar is Tameh, let us all get involved, even though we're Tameh. It's two separate contexts. Mutav, Yei Achal b'Tumas Basar. It is better, it's preferred that the Korban Pesach should be eaten when the basar is tummy. But lav, that only involves a lav. True, you have to override that isser but it's still a low grade issa, relatively speaking. But that doesn't allow for the basar to be eaten when a person's tummy. That's a karis involvement. Says Rav Chizda, if it's unavoidable that the person, the gaver, is going to be tummy, then we do the Pesach b'tumah. Because the personal tumah is a karis tumah. Person whose tummy cannot be found in the Azara, etc., that's karis. So when it's unavoidable, then evidently the Torah provides an allowance, a license to bring this Pesach b'tumah. But if you can get away with only the basar being tummy, that doesn't provide an allowance, a broad license for the people who are tummy to get involved. Says more Alma Kasavar of Chizda. Apparently, Rav Chizda holds Tuma Dechuya Hibetzibur. Although we speak about the Torah allowing a korban to be processed even b'tumah, it's a dichoy. It's out of necessity. It's still there. The tumah is still there. It's not a heter. We override the tumah aspect. Therefore, if we can try to avoid it or at least minimize it, we're meant to do it. In this case, although the basar is tummy, but let's try to minimize the extent of tumah. Don't allow people who are tummy to get involved. V'chein or Rabbi Yitzchak, tumah dechuya hi b'tzibur. Even a tumah b'tzibur is dechuya. It's pushed away. It's there. It's a concern. Therefore, try to minimize it. V'Rava Amar, Rava disagreed with this halach. He says like this: Afilu tmei nami avdi. Even in this last case, where the basar is tummy, that already allows for tmeim to get involved. My time. The chsiv. We find a pasuk that links the two elements of tumah to each other. When one doesn't pose a concern, then the other one doesn't either pose a concern. The two things are dependent. The chsiv va'basar asher yiga b'chol tumah. Basar which will touch tumah, lo yiachal, it should not be eaten, b'eish yisarv. So that's the halacha regarding the basar being tummy, which may not be eaten. That's number one. The pasuk concludes, "V'habasar, who should eat basar? Kol tar yochal basar. Only a person who's tar may eat basar. Kachim." So that's the second element, the personal tumah. First we speak about the item being tummy, which may not be eaten. Then the pasuk concludes with the person being tummy, who may not eat kachim. Apparently the two things are linked with each other. When one is present, so is the other one. But when one is ignored and overridden, so is the other one. When we have a situation where we don't apply the first part of the pasuk, that the basar which is tummy should not be eaten, we override that, such as in this case where the basar of the Pesach is tummy and we may still eat it. So since that doesn't work, that doesn't apply, we don't apply the second part of the pasuk as well, that we insist only on the tar eating. No, we don't insist any longer on only the tummy eating. When the first part is not available, the second part isn't either something to be reckoned with. However, when we do apply the first part of the pasuk, that basar which is tummy may not be eaten, then we apply the second part as well. It's a comprehensive din. That only a tar may eat. Therefore, says Rava, in this case where it's unavoidable that the basar will be eaten b'tumah, b'tumas basar. Likewise, even the tmeim may get engaged and involved in the Korban Pesach, because when the first element isn't applicable, likewise the second element either. So in conclusion, we learned that if either the kohol or the kleihanim or the kleisharis are tummy, they will proceed and bring the Pesach b'tumah. What type of tumas kleisharis? Rav Chizda says only a tumas kleisharis which will be matame the person. Rava says even one which will only be matame the bas. Continues the Gemara, Itma, we learned Harei Shahayu Yisrael Suppose you don't have a majority in Yisrael who are tummy. You have half and half. 50-50. 50 tar, 50 tummy. What is the halacha here? We have a machlekes. Rav Amar, mechza a mechza karev. Half and half is regarded like a majority. Although you can't really have two majorities in one unit. According to Rav, apparently we focus on each half independently. You're not a miut. You're half. Therefore, you have a din of a roiv. You have the same significance and prominence as the majority. So the Tahirim have a din of a majority, and likewise the Tmeim have a din of a roiv. Rav Kahana Amar, he says, no, you can't do that. Mechza in a karev. Half and half is not roiv. You have to view the entire unit of Yisrael as one. You cannot have two roivs in one unit. The Gemara explains. What is the nafkamina lahalach? Rav Amar. Mechza karev. Half and half is like roiv. What happens now? You have half tahir and half tmeim. Halalu oisen la'atzman. The tahir will bring their carbon pesach independently. B'tahara. Why b'tahara? Because they're like roiv. Roiv, tahirim, will never bring a pesach b'tumah. So they have to bring their pesach separately b'tahara. V'halalu oisen la'atzman. Likewise, the half of Yisrael who are tamei, they bring their own Pesach b'tumah. Roiv Yisrael Atame, they bring the Pesach b'tumah. So we have a paradoxical situation. We have two Roivs working together. Roiv Tahir will bring their carbon b'tahara. The other half, which are considered like Roiv Tmein, will bring their Pesach b'tumah. That's Rav Shita. Rav Kahana Amar, Mechza enik Roiv. Half and half are not regarded as Roiv. Rather, they're considered like a miut. Once you're not the roiv, a non-roiv is considered like a miut. And what happens now? Tahir and Eisen Rishon. The half of Yisrael which are tar will bring the Pesach Rishon b'tahara. Utmein Eisen Sheni. The other half, which is Tamei, they will bring their Pesach during Ira, Pesach Sheni, because they're only regarded as a miut. They can't bring a Pesach b'tumah, which is halacha specific to roiv. They're only a minority of Klal Yisrael. They have to wait till Pesach Sheni and bring their carbon. Ikad Amri Amar Rav Kahana. There's another version of Rav Kahana who says like this. So Rav was the one who said half is treated like a roiv. Rav Kahana in the first version held half is treated like a miut. Here comes another pshat. Ikad Amri Amar Rav Kahana. Mechza in a karev. Half and half is not like roiv. But they're also not a miut. They're a limbo. Nor here nor there. Therefore, Tahirim Eisen Rishon. The Tahirim, half of Yisrael who are Tahir, will bring Pesach Rishon b'tahara. Because they're only a miut. They can't bring, because they're a miut. And therefore, they have to bring b'tahara. Because the other half of Yisrael, which is also a miut, doesn't justify bringing the Pesach b'tumah. So Tahirim bring the Pesach Rishon b'tahara. Utmein ein oisin lo yisar Rishon lo yisar Sheni. Listen to this. The half of Yisrael who are Tamei, they're excluded entirely from Pesach. They can't bring the first or second Pesach. Explains the Gemara. Why not? But Rishon li'avdi, they cannot bring the first Pesach b'tumah. They'll have a ruba. They're not a roiv. They're only a miut. B'sheni li'avdi, likewise they can't bring a Korban Pesach Sheni, even b'tahara, to lihavu miuta, because they're not a miut. They're not a roiv or a miut. The concept of Pesach Sheni was only granted to a yachid. The pasuk says, "Ish ki yetami lenefesh," and he will not be able to do Pesach Rishon. He gets pushed off, postponed for Pesach Sheni. A tzibur bring Pesach Rishon even b'tumah, a roiv, and a miut, a yachid individual, will have Pesach Sheni privileges. But according to the second version of Rav Kahana, when we have half and half, a half is neither considered a majority nor a minority. And since they're not a miut, they don't have a din of Pesach Sheni. So in conclusion, half of Yisrael are tar, half are tamei. Rav says, mechza karoiv. Each half is viewed independently of the other. Each one is considered like a roiv. If you're not a miut, then you have the same chashiva's prominence as significance of a roiv. Therefore, Rav says, the Tahirim will bring their own Pesach b'tahara. The Tmeim will bring their own Pesach b'tumah. Rav Kahana in the first version said, mechza is like a miut. So the Tahirim bring Pesach Rishon b'tahara, and the Tmeim will be able to bring their Pesach Sheni, because they're individuals. A miut is like an ish who can bring us Pesach Sheni to make up for lost ground. According to the second version of Rav Kahana, mechza is neither considered a roiv nor a miut, and therefore the Tahirim can bring Pesach Rishon B'Tahara, but the Tmeim are excluded completely. They can't bring the Pesach Rishon B'Tumah because they're only a miut. A Pesach can only come B'Tumah if you have a Roiv Tumah. They're only a miut. They're certainly not a Roiv, let's put it this way. They're not a Roiv, therefore they can't bring Pesach Rishon B'Tumah. Nor can they bring Pesach Sheni, because that's a halacha specific to a yachid, individual, or a miut. Half of Klal Yisrael, that's not a miut. Let's take a look at Rashi on top. Utmein ein oisin lo yisa rishon, says Rashi, the kivun de eina keroiv. Since half is not roiv, lo yavdi b'tumah. They can't bring a Pesach b'tumah, which is a very specific privilege for a roiv. They're not a roiv. So that excludes them from Pesach Rishon. Ubesheni nami loy. Nor can they bring Pesach Sheni, de eina miut, because half is not a miut. And Pesach Sheni is a special halacha for a miut. Continues the Gemara, we want to have a raya from the Mishnah, a kasha on the Shittas. Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, Nitma kol erubai. If the kol, or most of the kol became tamei, oy shahaya kahanim tmein, or perhaps the kahanim were tamei, v'alkohol tahirim, and the kol were tar, the Mishnah said, ye'asa betuma. The Korban Pesach should be brought betuma. Stop. Let's make a diuk. Rubai hu da'avdi betuma. This halacha of bringing the Korban Pesach B'tumah only applies when most of Klal Yisrael were tamei. But apparently if it's only half and half, aval palga, lo avdi b'rishon. If it's half tamei and half tar, the tmein cannot bring the Pesach Rishon at all. Now this is a kasha l'Rav, who says that half tmein is like roiv tmein, and they can bring Pesach Rishon B'tumah. Amalach Rav. Rav will respond, let's relearn the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, if Roiv are Tamei, then they bring the Korban Pesach B'tumah. Ruba, Avdi, Kula B'tumah. If it's a Roiv Tamei, then everybody joins together, even the Tahirin can take part in that Korban Pesach B'tumah. Because Roiv of Yisrael Tamei, the Mid can join the crowd. Palgo. But the diuk will be like this. If it's half and half Tom and half Tar, then the halacha changes slightly. In what way? Halalu oisin la'atzman, halalu oisin la'atzman. Each segment of Klal Yisrael will make their own independent Korban Pesach. The Tahirim will make a B'tahara, and the half Tmein will make a B'tumah. They can make a B'tumah because half is like Roiv. So this is very much in line with my Shita. Hachinami Mestavra. Indeed, it seems from the wording of the Mishnah itself that this is the correct approach. That even when we have half and half, the Tmeim can go ahead and bring Pesach Rishon B'tumah, because half is like Roiv. What's the right? The Tani Seifa. Let's drop down to the next part of the Mishnah, which says, Nitma miut hakol. If only a miut of the kol were tamei, Tahirin oisin es harishon. Tahirin will bring Pesach Rishon B'tahara, of course. Utmein oisin hasheni. And the miut who are tamei, they will bring Pesach Sheni. The diuk is like this: miut hu da'avdi b'sheni. It's only because they're a miut, then they have to wait for Pesach Sheni. Aval palga. But suppose it was half and half, they don't have to wait for Ira to bring the Pesach Sheni. Aval palga loy. No, this halacha doesn't apply. V'avdi b'rishon. And actually, they, even the half who are tamei, they can bring Pesach Rishon. V'alalo oisin la'atzman. Each segment of Klal Yisrael, each half, will bring their own independent Korban Pesach. These will bring B'tahara, these will bring a Tumah. There's actually a raya to me, says Rav, that when we have half and half, each one is deemed like Roiv. Velakashi Rav Kahana. If that's the case, if this is such a good diuk, then only when it's a miut do they have to wait for Pesach Sheni. But word half and half, the half who are tamei are considered like a Roiv, and they can bring the Pesach Rishon B'tumah. This will be a kasha of Kahana, who doesn't agree with Rav. He doesn't allow the half who are tamei to bring the Pesach Rishon B'tumah. Amalach Rav Kahana will respond like this. Let's relearn our Mishnah. The Mishnah concludes by saying, Nitmu miut hakol. As part of the kol, a miut became tamei. Tahirin oisin es harishon. The Tahirin make the first Pesach B'tahara. Utmein oisin es Hashem. The miut who are tamei will bring Pesach Sheni. We can make a diuk. Ha palgo. Suppose it was only half and half. It wasn't roiv that a tur, it was a half and half. So unlike Rav, who said, well, if it's half and half, the Tohirin make their own Pesach and the Tmei make their own Pesach b'tumah. No, Rav Kahana will say differently. If it's half and half, what is the resulting halacha? Tohirin oisen esarishan. True, the Tohirin do their own Pesach b'tahara. Avot Tmein, but the segment of Klal Yisrael who are tummy, they have Tmei, einon oisen, lo esarishan, velo esashen. They cannot bring Pesach Rishon or Pesach Sheni. Why? Because they're neither roiv nor miyut. Since they're not roiv, they can't bring Pesach Rishon b'tumah. Since they're not miyut either, they can't have Pesach Sheni, which is something specific, unique to an individual. So that's how Rav Kahana will interpret the Mishnah, in line with his Shita. This works well according to the second version of Rav Kahana, that the half Tmein are considered neither roiv or miyut, and they're excluded from both Pesachim. However, according to the first lashon of Rav Kahana, who says that we have half and half, what happens? Tohirim oisen esarishin, utmein oisen esasheni. Because according to the first version of Rav Kahana, the mechza have a din of miyut, and they will have Pesach Sheni privileges. Michael and Meimar. So according to that pshat, how are you going to explain our Mishnah? Which sounds like the miyut are exempted and excluded from both Pesachim. Omer Rav Kahana. So Rav Kahana in that version will respond like this: Hu adin dafilu palgo. Just because the Mishnah ends by saying, when it's a miyut tmein, they can bring Pesach Sheni, which sounds like, if it wouldn't be a miyut, it would be half and half. The tmein cannot bring Pesach Sheni. Let's not make that diuk. Hu adin dafilu palga nami, even if it would be 50-50. Nami, there as well, Tohirin oisen esarishin, utmein oisen esasheni, the same halach will apply there as well. Tohirin go about bringing their Pesach b'tahara, the tmein bring the Pesach Sheni, because half is considered like a miyut, according to this version of Rav Kahana. If that's the case, the wording of the Mishnah will be a bit problematic. So why then does the Mishnah say, if it's a miyut, then they can bring Pesach Sheni, which sounds like if it's half and half, they can't. Lav dafka. I did a ton of Reisha Rubai. It's simply on account of the wording of the Reisha. Since the Reisha began by teaching us that if Roiv Yisrael Tmei, they can bring the Pesach Rishon B'tumah. So on account of that language, Tananami Seifa Miyutoi, the Seifa simply shows the contrasting language that a miyut of Tmein will have to wait for Pesach Sheni. But certainly if it's half and half, the same halach would apply there as well, that the half who are Tomei are considered like a miyut, according to this Pshat of Kahana, and they can bring Pesach Sheni. So we had a kasha from our Mishnah on all the Shitas, and everything was answered. Continues the Gemara. Tanya kavasei de Rav. Now the Gemara will bring a raya from a brisa which will support each one of the three Shitas. First, Tanya kavasei de Rav. We're going to have a raya from a brisa in support of Rav's Shita, that half is considered like a roiv. Tanya kavasei Rav Kahana kitrei lishni. Likewise, we're going to have one brisa for each one of Rav Kahana's versions. Says the Gemara, Tanya kavasei de Rav. First, we're going to have a raya to Rav. The brisa says, Hoy Yisrael mechza tohir no mechza tmein. If Yisrael will half tamei and half tar, halalo oisen la'atzman, halalo oisen la'atzman. Each segment of Klal Yisrael will bring the Korban Pesach Rishon, the Tohirin will bring Betahara, and the Tmein Betum. We see that a half is equated to Roiv. Tanya Kalishna Kamad Rav Kahana. We have a brisa in support of the first lashon of Rav Kahana, that a half is deemed like a miyut. Harei Shahoy Yisrael Mechza Tohir Umechza Tmein. When we have a situation where Yisrael are half Tar and half Tameh, what do? Tohirin Oisen Esarishin. The Tohirin bring their Pesach Rishon bit Tahara. Utmein Oisen Esasheni. The other half, who are Tameh, will bring Pesach Sheni, because half is considered a miyut. A miyut brings Pesach Sheni, like an individual. V'tanya Kalishna Bas Rav Kahana. Now I'm going to have a raya in support of the second lashon of Rav Kahana, that half is not roiv nor is it miut. Hareisha Yisrael mechza tohir umechza tmein. What happens? Tohir and oisen es harishon. Utmein, however, einon oisen lo is harishon v'lo is hasheni. Why can't they bring the rishon? Because they're not a roiv. Only a roiv tmein can bring Pesach Batuma. Why can't they bring Pesach Sheni? Because that's designed for an individual. Half of Klal Yisrael, that's not individual, that's half. They're not a miut, and therefore they can't bring Pesach Sheni. So now we have a brisa in support of Rav, in support of the first lashon of Rav Kahana, and the support of the second lashon of Rav Kahana. The Gemara will proceed to try to answer what is the other Mad Amma going to do with the brisa which supported the opposing shita. Says the Gemara, L'Rav, U'L'Lishna Basra de Rav Kahana. What are Rav and the second lashon of Rav Kahana going to do with the brisa which supported the first lashon of Rav Kahana? The brisa which said that a half tmein will bring Pesach Sheni. Hodatan, Tahir Ne'isen Es Harishon, Utmein Es Hasheni. The brisa which said that the half tmein will bring Pesach Sheni. Heichem Etartila. How is Rav who holds that when it's half tamei, half is like roiv, and they bring Pesach Rishon Betuma? How is he going to explain the brisa which tells us that the half tmein bring the Pesach Sheni? Likewise, how is Rav Kahana, the second lashon, who holds that when it's 50% tmein, they can't bring Pesach Sheni because they're not a mit? What is that lashon going to do with this brisa that tells us that the half tmein bring Pesach Sheni? Heichem Etartila. They're going to learn that actually this brisa is speaking about a case where it wasn't half tmein, it was only a miut, and that's why they bring Pesach Sheni. Kigoin, shehayu Yisrael mechza tohir umechza tmein. Suppose Yisrael were half and half, but if we divide it along the gender line, it's actually a bit different than half and half. The zecharim, the men, were mostly tar and only miut tamei. The nashim were mostly tamei and a miut tar. Now, if you join together both elements, the men and the women, collectively, you'll have more tamein. You'll have half tahirim and half tamein. The nashim mashlimas latmein. The nashim, by virtue of the fact that you have many nashim who are tamei, if you join them together, you put them into the equation with the men, you'll end up having half tahar and half tamei. Now, we learn later in the Masechta, there's a machlokes regarding the status of an isha with respect to Korban Pesach. Some say she is chayiv in Korban Pesach, whether Pesach Rishon, whether Pesach Sheni. Some hold she's really potter, it's rishus, it's optional. Some hold Pesach Rishon she's chayiv, Pesach Sheni she's potter. Be'ez Hashem, we'll see that in the sugis later on. Now this brisa holds v'kasavar noshim barishon rishus, that when it comes to Pesach Rishon, an isha is not really chayiv; it's just optional. Therefore, when calculating the tahirim utmein and Klal Yisrael, you cannot insert the noshim into that equation because they're not really chayiv in Pesach Rishon. Therefore, dal noshim mitmein. Let's remove the noshim factor from the total number of tmein. What do you have as a result? V'havlu tmein mi'uta. When it comes to the men, you have only a mi'ut who are tamei. Right? We're speaking that the men were mostly tar and only a small portion tamei. It's only because you included the nashim who were mostly tamei and only partially tar into the equation, which gave you a resulting equation of a balance of tar and tamei in the balance, half and half. But suppose you remove the nashim from the calculation because they're not really chayav in the Korban Pesach. What do you have as a result? You have, when you look at the men, you have mostly tahir and miut who are tamei. And then certainly they bring a Pesach Sheni. Of course, if it's only a meat, they wait for Pesach Sheni. So it's not a kasha on Rav who says that half is considered like a roiv. It's not a kasha on Rav Kahana who says half is not a meat. We're not speaking about half. Ultimately, it was only a meat. Men who were tamei, and therefore they bring Pesach Sheni. So that explains that. Continues the Gemara. We had a brisa in support of the second lashon of Rav Kahana, which seems to say that the mechza tmein are excluded completely because they're not considered a roiv, they're not considered a meat. What are Rav and Rav Kahana in the first lashon, going to do with that brisa? Lil Rav, who says that half is considered like roiv, or the lishna kamad Rav Kahana, who says that half is considered like a meat and can bring Pesach Sheni. Hadasanya, what are they going to do with the following brisa, which supported the opposing shita? Tahir and Oisin Esarishan. We have half and half. The Tahir and bring the Pesach Rishon. Utmein ein Oisin lo Yesarishan lo Yisasheni. And the Tmein segment cannot bring Pesach Rishon or Pesach Sheni. Heichim Metarzila. How are Rav and the first lashon of Rav Kahana going to interpret this brisa? Because Rav was the one who held that half Tmein can proceed with Pesach Rishon B'Tumah. Unlike this brisa which said they're excluded completely. Rav Kahana in the first lashon held half Tmein can at least bring Pesach Sheni, whereas in this brisa they're excluded completely. Says the Gemara like this: Rav will interpret the brisa like this. It's not speaking when we really had half tummy. Rather, it's Kegoyin Shehoy Yisrael, Mechza Tmein Mechza Tahir. You had Yisrael. In this case, Yisrael means the Zecharim, the men, who were half Tamei and half Tar. 50-50. V'noshim oitfois ala Tahir. However, if you take into account the women as well, the women had more Tahirim than Tmeim amongst themselves. In which case, if you include the Noshim, it's going to tip the scale in favor of the Tahirim, leaving you with Roiv Tahirim. So it's not 50-50. With the women included, it's mostly Tahirim. Now, because Sarah, this brisa holds, like the other shita, what is the status of Noshim with respect to Karban Pesach? It depends. Noshim Barishon Chayva. The first Karban Pesach brought in Nisan, they are Chayiv. So when we make that calculation with respect to the first Pesach, they're included. Ubesheni Rishos. However, with respect to the Karban Pesach Sheni and Ir, it's only optional when it comes to women. They're not really Chayiv in that. So getting back to our case, where the Zecharim amongst Klal Yisrael had 50-50. 50% Tar, 50% Tamei. Due to the inclusion of the women in the Cheshbon, the result was mostly Tahirim. So the Tmeim can't bring Pesach Rishon, B'Tumah, B'Rishon Le'avdi, the Havi Le'miut. Since they're only a minority. Because if you look at Klal Yisrael collectively, men and women, who are both Chayv in Pesach Rishon, we have a majority of Tahirim. That doesn't allow the Miyut to bring B'Tumah. So that's explained. Umiyut Le'avdi B'Rishon. A Miyut can't bring a Pesach Rishon B'Tumah. Fine, that's understood. What about Pesach Sheni? Why are the Miyut excluded from Pesach Sheni as well? B'Sheni Le'avdi. The reason why they can't bring Pesach Sheni is because with respect to Pesach Sheni, we cannot include the Noshim in the equation. The Noshim are not Chayim in Pesach Sheni. Dal Noshim Minai. Remove the women from the collective Cheshbon here. Deduct them from the equation. V'havalu palgu palga. The resulting equation will be 50-50. Because the men were always 50-50. It was only due to the inclusion of the Noshim that it tipped the scale in favor of the Tahirim. Yeah, that applies only Pesach Rishon time because the Noshim are Chayiv in that Pesach. Therefore, the Miyut Tmeim were a Miyut and could not bring Pesach Rishon. But when it comes to Pesach Sheni, That's a game changer because the Nashim are now deducted, excluded, discounted from the equation. Because the resulting equation is 50-50. We go back to men, exclusively Anoshim. The men are 50-50. And we have half of Yisrael who are Tamei, they cannot bring Pesach Sheni. This will be in line with Rav. This is Rav's teretz. Half of Klal Yisrael are considered like Roiv. And therefore, if we have, come Pesach Sheni, we have half of Yisrael who are Tamei, they can't bring Pesach Sheni, which is something unique and specific to a miut. So that explains the Brisa. Why can't the miut bring Pesach Sheni? Because it's not really a miut. It involved this whole scenario where the Pesach Rishon, you had more Tahirim, but during the Pesach Sheni, it was 50-50. Fine. So come Pesach Sheni, they cannot bring a Pesach Sheni because half is not considered a miut. Ulu Rav Kahana. Now, how's Rav Kahana? We're speaking about the first lashon of Rav Kahana, who considered half like a miut. And therefore he says when you have 50% Tahirim, 50% Tmein, the Tmein will wait for Pesach Sheni. So what is he going to do with this Bryce, which told us that when we have 50-50, the Tmein are excluded completely from Pesach Rishon or Pesach Sheni? How is he going to interpret the Bryce? Rav Kahana, the Amar, Pal Ganam Ne Avdi B'Sheni. He knows that even half of Klal Yisrael who are Tamei, they're considered like a meat, and they can proceed with Pesach Sheni. Hochi Mitarisla. That's how he's going to explain this Bryce. The Bryce which says that the Tmein, in this case, when we have 50-50, the Tmein cannot bring Pesach Rishon or Sheni. How is he going to explain it? As follows. Klal Yisrael collectively, on the whole, were half Torah and half Tamei. But if you focus on the men, on the Scharim independently, you'll find that there were less Tahirin than Tmeim. On the men's side of things, there were more Tmeim than Tahirin. So how did we have 50-50? Because you include the Nashim. The Nashim mashlimas Tahirin. By including the Nashim, who happen to have amongst themselves more Tahirin than Tmeim. If you join both numbers together, the resulting equation will be half and half. But it's only because you included the Nashim. Now, this Brisa holds, as we just said, because Savar Nashim B'Rishon Chayva B'Sheni Rishus. When it comes to the Pesach Rishon, the Nashim may be included because they are Chayiv in Pesach Rishon. So certainly, you account for them. And since you include them in the equation, you have half Torah and half Tmeim. However, B'Sheni Rishus, when it comes to Pesach Sheni, it's optional for them. And they cannot be included in the calculation. So as a result of this, what happens? B'Rishon Li'avdi. The half who are Tamei, they cannot bring Pesach Rishon. Why? Tahavalu Palgo. Because it's 50-50. You included the Nashim, which gave you a result of 50-50. Half Tmeim, they have no right to bring Pesach Rishon B'Tumah. Upalga B'Rishon Li'avdi. They can't bring Pesach Rishon B'Tumah, they're half. They're not a Roiv, they're only a miut. What about Pesach Sheni? B'Sheni Nahami Loi. Nor can they bring a Pesach Sheni. Why? Although generally Rav Kahana holds that when we have half Tmein, they're considered like a miut, and they can bring Pesach Sheni, but in this case not. Why? Because if you deduct the Nashim, since the Nashim are not Chayiv in Pesach Sheni, you have to discount them from the equation here, from the Cheshbon. Dal Nashim Minayu. Come Pesach Sheni, you have to remove the women factor. Minayu Minat Tahirim. Remove them from the Tahirim number. Meaning, the only reason why we ever had 50-50 was because you included the women. The men on their own were mostly Tmein. Now if you deduct the Nashim, the resulting effect will be that we have most Tmein. Havu Tmein Ruba. Most of Yisrael, most of the men are Tamei. V'Ruba L'Avdi B'Sheni. And of course, most can't bring a Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni is something specific to an ish, an individual, miut of Klal Yisrael. But a roiv, they can't bring Pesach Sheni. So Rav Kahana interpreted the Bryce in line with his shita. Rav Kahana in the first lashon held that half is considered a miut, and they can bring Pesach Sheni. So why does the Bryce not allow the miut to bring Pesach Sheni? The answer is because come Pesach Sheni, they turn into a roiv. The only reason why they were half was because he took the women into account. That only applies during Pesach Rishon, when women are chayev. But come Pesach Sheni, when women are exempt, it's only rishus for them, it's only optional, you can't insert them into this calculation. So once you deduct the women, you're left with most men who are tamei. Most men, they can't bring Pesach Sheni. So at this point we answered the Shitas. We answered how Rav and Rav Kahana, in his first Lashon, interprets the Brisa which came to support Rav Kahana's second Lashon. And likewise we answered how Rav and Rav Kahana, in the second Lashon, interpret the Brisa which came to support Rav Kahana in the first Lashon. What's remaining is, how is Rav Kahana going to interpret the Brisa which supported Rav? That half is considered like a Rav. Rav Kahana, Hoda Sanya, this Brisa which said, Haresha Yisrael Mechza Torah and Mechza Tmein. If you have 50-50, what happens? Each half makes his own carbon, the Torah do their own, and the Tmein bring Pesach B'tumah because half is like Rav. How is he going to answer the Brisa? Oh, Malach Rav Kahana will respond, you're right, Tanoi. It's actually Machlekes Tanoim. And I follow the other Tana. This Tana is in support of Rav, and I hold like the other Tana, who holds that a half is not like a Rav. Indeed, there is a Tana Mandamar who holds that half has the significance and prominence of a Rav. So if it's 50-50, the half who are Tmeim can actually bring the Pesach B'tumah like a Rav. However, there's another Shita. The other Brisa, the other Brisais hold, half is not like a Rav. And I follow that Shita. So in conclusion, we have Klal Yisrael half Tummy, half Torah. Rav says half has another Rav. And the Chiddush here is that they can bring the Pesach B'tumah. The half that are Torah bring B'tar, the half that are Tumah bring B'tumah. Rav Kahana in the first Lashon says half is like a meat. Therefore, the half who are Tummy need to bring Pesach Sheni. According to the second version of Rav Kahana, half is neither Rav nor meat. Therefore, the half who are Tummy cannot bring Pesach Rishon because they're not a Rav. Nor can they bring Pesach Sheni, which is limited to an individual. Let's make a brief chazar of today's daf. The one began with Shitas Rabbi Yehoda holds that in order to allow Zrikas dam of a carbon, you need to have something other than the dam. A kazayis of either the basar, that's learned from the pasuk, v'asisa oilo yisecha habasar v'hadam. Both elements need to be present. Or a kazayis of chaylev. That we learn from the pasuk which says, v'hikter ha'chaylev. Also, a Yeseres HaKavod and Shtei HaKleis would qualify because the pasuk says V'hikter HaChelev L'reach Nechoyach, which includes these items as well. But a half a kazayis of basar and half of chelev won't qualify because you don't have a shear in neither context. Not fachilas adam, nor fachilas mizbeach. But in oil is different because everything goes onto the mizbeach. In that case, even if it's a half a kazayis of chelev, a half of basar, that enables the zrik. The Gemara told us that in minchas and sachim, although it's brought together with the carbon, since that's not part and parcel of the carbon itself, that remaining behind does not allow for the zrik of the carbon to be accomplished. We proceeded with the Mishnah and the Gemara regarding a Pesach which is ba b'tumah in either of the following cases: when the kol is tummy, or most of them, the kohanim are tummy, or the klei. Rav Chizah tells us that only applies when the klei is going to be a person, but if it's only tumah sheretz, that Pesach can't be brought to tumah. Rava disagreed. He said, even in that case, you could bring the Pesach b'tumah. In the case where you have half and half, Rav says half have a din of a roif, and they can bring a Pesach b'tumah. The Torah bring their own, and the Tmeim bring their own b'tumah. Rav Kahana says half is not like a roif, it's like a miut. They have to wait for Pesach Sheni. According to the second Lashon of Rav Kahana, half is nor this nor that. They're not a roiv or a mit, and therefore they're excluded. The Tmeim are excluded from both Pesachim, Pesach Rishon, because they can't bring Betumah, they're not a roiv, or from Pesach Sheni, which is unique and specific to a Yachid, Ish. This Mechza is not a miut, and therefore they can't bring Pesach Sheni. The Gemara brought a raya to each one, and in fact answered how each man Amar will interpret the Brisa which came in support of his opponent. And the one concluded that Rav Kahana says, you're right, it's a machlokes Tanoim, and I follow the shita that mechza is not a roiv. Be well and hatzlacha Rabba.